السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يعطيكم ألف عافية جميعا. Today we are welcome you in this new webinar provided by Siemens Healthineers. The speakers of today is Engineer Nicolas Jacot. He is the Ultrasound Segment Manager for English-speaking Africa and Middle East in Siemens Healthineers. Today the title of the webinar is Utilizing of Ultrasound Technology in COVID-19. Welcome for all, and if you have any question during the presentation, you can type your questions in the questions tab in your control panel. In the end of the webinars, Mr. Nicolas, he will answer most of your questions as per the time available. Thank you very much. Mr. Nicolas, you will be the presenter right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Now I give you the control.
Thank you. I will share my screen.
Yes.
All good?
Yes, all good.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Hatem, for the introduction and for giving me the chance to talk in front of the Saudi Scientific Society for Biomedical Engineering. So good evening to all the attendees. As said before, my name is Nicolas. I'm an ultrasound guy, but I'm also a biomedical engineer myself from my university. And I work in the whole Middle East, half of Africa. And today I will explain the use of ultrasound in relation with the current COVID-19 disease, how it's used, how it's useful, etc. You will hopefully understand a bit more. And of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write them down so you don't forget, and we'll try to cover as much as possible at the end of the presentation. So the program is actually quite simple. I try to make it as entertaining as possible, showing what is known so far. You will see not much actually. How does ultrasound work, and if it is helpful in the current situation? The answer is yes. I will explain how to prevent the infection, cross-infection between patients. So this is linked to ultrasound again. So how to clean, how to disinfect and protect both the patient and the ultrasound system, and a bit of our own response to the COVID-19 disease as a company. And one subject that is important to me is also make sure that people have accurate information. I'm not necessarily talking about what I'm going to say, but in general, that it's best to avoid, fake information. There's a lot of those going on social medias and even on the news sometimes. So it's good to know where to find the good and correct information in those difficult times. So basically, we're on this together, right? So from our side, we are fully committed to support the healthcare system, of course, and healthcare providers. So this doesn't mean only doctors or nurses and researchers. It means the whole system, and you are a big part of it yourself, being part of the operations and the hospitals and the clinics. This is something that is highly necessary. So it's also taking into account this part of the story. So really supporting the whole thing here. And we're learning things together somehow, because how to face this situation, it's unprecedented. We know very little about how it's transmitting, how to cure the disease, how to handle patient in general. We know there's no vaccine yet. Treatments are under trials, and it's not really going anywhere for now. There's nothing official. The only things we know for sure, basically, is that we need to wash our hands, avoid touching too many things around. We need to wear a face mask to protect ourselves and the others. If we can, we have to stay home as much as possible and practice, social distancing. But if we can't, if like us, we have to work with patients, etc., then better to wear some good equipment. Yeah, so this is the things we know for sure, and that's pretty much it. There's not much more things that are well known nowadays. So knowing this, I'm going to go straight to the point because we're here to talk about ultrasound. Yeah, so I want you to understand at the end of the day how to use ultrasound, how to clean it, how to take the best out of the ultrasound part of the story, and then it's actually quite interesting. So I always like to start with basics or things that are really maybe things that are very well known, but it's always good to start with those good basics. And the first one is why ultrasound is actually so popular, because it's old technology. It exists for many decades now. It's something that is not as advanced as MRI or CT, etc. But it's quite popular in all the hospitals all across the world, and mainly for 3 reasons. And those 3 reasons is that it's safe. There's no dose involved. So, of course, X-ray is the most famous one. So X-ray, CT are using, there's dose. If you look at molecular imaging, same thing. But if you look also at MRI, there's no dose in MRI, but there's contrast agents. And those contrast agents, they're toxic in little dose. They're toxic for the kidneys, for example. And that are things that it's not meant for all the patients, basically. But if you look at ultrasound, that's why pregnant women, they have ultrasound during pregnancies, because it's completely harmless. Even a fetus in the mom's belly, they will not have any harm. Of course, you don't do it every day, don't do it for too long, but it's completely safe. So this is the main thing. Second is that ultrasound is usually a very easy machine to use. It's like a laptop, basically. You just need to find a power socket, you plug it, and then you turn it on. It's like if I give you a camera, high chance you will find the on button and you will be able to take a few pictures. Not necessarily a high definition or best quality pictures, but everybody can do it. It's nothing like really advanced. Of course, it takes a lot of practice to make the beautiful images that we see, especially in my presentation. You will see a few. It takes practice, it takes experience, but trust me, if you can put your hands on an ultrasound, most likely you will be able to do a few images. It's quite simple. So that's the second point. For the third one is that ultrasound machines are not cheap, but they're less expensive than pretty much everything else you can find that makes images of the body. So if you look about any other equipment you find in a radiology department, for example, high chance that the ultrasound is the cheapest. Of course, there's very expensive machines out there. There's also very cheap, I don't know, X-rays or CTs. But at the end of the day, if you look at the average price, it's always quite low compared to everything else. And so you have a high availability of those systems. That means in a classic hospital, maybe you have 2 CTs, you have 1 MRI, but you will have 25, 30 ultrasounds. There's pretty much in every department you will find ultrasound, so there's a very high availability. So those are the 3 points explaining a bit about why ultrasound is so popular everywhere, basically in the world. For what it does, of course, the way that ultrasound is used to make image, we send ultrasound in the body and we listen to the echo. That's why it's called echography as well, or sonar. And we make an image out of the echo coming back to the transducer. So I'm gonna try to have a pointer, something nice. So if you look, that should do the trick. So if you look at this image, you will see a transducer. So this is a typical transducer to make images of the abdomen, for example, and you can use it to do 2D images inside the body. So 2D image, yes, but it's live imaging. So you see the movements of the organs or whatever. And this is very different to CT or MR, because usually when you have an MRI, you have still images, meaning if you have, for example, your shoulder is hurting, you go for a shoulder MRI, okay, there will be beautiful image of your shoulder, but maybe it's hurting only when you do a specific movement. And this with ultrasound is very nice because you can do the movement and you can see what happens live. So this is something why ultrasound is also very helpful, is because you see the movement happening in front of your eyes. So you can assess the whole anatomy of the body from head to toe. Basically, you can use any different type of transducer to see for the heart, for the abdomen, the liver. You can do the muscles and musculoskeletal scanning. You can do vascular. You can do pretty much everything in the body with an ultrasound. There's sometimes better machines than ultrasound, like a CT, to do high definition. But overall, if you have an ultrasound, high chance you can see the anatomy of the body very well. So all the patients, 100% of the examination in ultrasound will produce this kind of image, which is a 2D image, yeah? And you will see a grayscale image with the anatomy. Here is the neck, for example, so you see a thyroid. Trained eyes will recognize maybe some muscles in the upper part, some vessels, etc. But you can recognize maybe the thyroid organ on this image. Then, if you want to go a bit deeper, maybe about functioning, how is the body functioning a bit deeper, instead of just looking at the anatomy, you can also look at the movements. So there's something called color mode, which is usually called also color Doppler, because it's using the physics of the Doppler effect to show you a movement in either red or blue. And red or blue, usually some people think that it means it's an artery or it's vein. It can be it's true, but it's only meaning at the end of the day that something is coming towards the transducer and something is going away. So you can reverse the color, you can do whatever you want. And on the right side, if you see that's an image of a vessel, like maybe the vessel in the abdomen. So you see a nice blue color of the blood moving. But on the left image, for example, you see a heart. So the scanning of the heart here is not showing the blood at all. It's showing the movement of the muscle. The blood, maybe the doctor didn't care about the blood at this point. He just wanted to see the muscle moving, and mostly if it's moving all at the same time. That means that the heart is pumping efficiently. So it's not necessarily the blood. It's not blue for the vein and red for the artery. It's just showing the movement. And just having this information is very precious sometimes for a diagnosis, to see if there's movement where there's not supposed to be a movement, or if there's something blocked in a vessel. You can see very advanced things thanks to this color mode. But it's not for every patient. It's already something that is a bit advanced, and it's not used every scanning. Then there is something a bit more advanced, but using exactly the same Doppler effect, is basically to have a quantification of the how fast the movement is going. So this one most likely is for the blood in the vessels, and we have a spectrum which is showing the velocity of the blood inside. So you have a peak, which is most likely when the heart is contracting. So there's a fast movement of the blood during the systolic contraction of the heart, and there's the flow going a bit slower. That means the heart is relaxing, and that's looking like this on this graph. So if you ever had a flash on the road with your car, this is using exactly the same technology. There is the radar on the side, and it's fixed to a certain speed, and it's looking at basically the cars going, like the blood going, and it's giving you the real-time speed. If it's exceeding a certain speed, for a doctor, it means maybe it's a specific pathology. If it's you in your car, maybe it means you're going too fast and there will be some flash, etc. So it's exactly the same thing, but it's used in the medical clinical way. Okay, so it's very simple. If you think about it, that's those three things I showed you, 2D color and this quantification pulsed wave mode, this is pretty much 95% of everything you want to do in an ultrasound. Then if you want to do some extra things, maybe you've heard, of course, of doing 3D, 4D images for babies, etc. This is not clinical, meaning it's for the mom to see the face of the baby, but it doesn't give any extra clinical details to a doctor. The doctor will see everything he needs in 2D. This 3D is more for fancy, showing the mom to be happy. The family will be very happy to see a face of the baby. These are more like marketing things. There's also modes called elastography that is telling you if organ is hard or if it's soft. That's also giving very precious information to doctors on diagnostic. We can do contrast injection in ultrasound, same as in CT, to see the vessels and to see the perfusion of the organ. So this is using micro bubbles. So again, it's safe to use. It has no toxicity for the body. And we can also do things like fusion between here on this image, you will see a CT together with ultrasound. So that means you have the high definition of the CT, and at the same time you have the movement and maybe you want to do a biopsy, so you want to put a needle in the liver, so you can do it very easily with the ultrasound. And it's a bit harder with the CT to see things live like this. So that was for the clinical images and all this. But one thing that is the most important to understand with ultrasound is that it's basically a computer. Yeah, most of the ultrasound machine is a Windows computer. What makes it different is the transducers. So you will find maybe that's something that is confusing a lot of people, including myself, because many different brands have many different type of transducers. Each machine has its own set, etc. It's very, very complicated, but at the end of the day, if you have to remember some few things about transducer, most likely two things, it's their shape and their frequency. So we talk about the most frequent one, we talk about curved transducer or convex transducer. So they have like a round shape like this, and they do this kind of image. So you see a large image on your screen, and usually you use this for abdominal or obstetric, or to do some deep images of the body. Linear, they have, of course, a linear shape. They do some rectangular images like this on your screen most of the time, and it's used to do superficial things. So superficial, I mean vascular, like in the neck, or we look at tendons and muscles in the arms, in the legs, the knees, etc. So we want to see the small things in the superficial areas. Yeah. And a third type of transducer, which has a square shape, it's called phased array or echo probe. It's usually used in cardiac. Why it has a specific shape is because the heart, as you know, is behind the ribs, and we can't do ultrasound of the bones. We have to avoid the bones because it's blocking completely the sound. It's not going through like the X-ray. So if you want to see the heart in ultrasound, you have to have a small probes that fits between the ribs. If you fit between the ribs, you will have a small window at the top, and then you can see the insides of the heart very well. So you need this kind of small footprints probe, and they're called phased array most of the time. But then there's different levels in each one of those. You will find different frequencies, and this is pure physics. The higher the frequency, the better the resolution. Yeah, it's like you have 4G on your phone. 5G is going to bring you more data. It's going to bring you more definition. But the higher the frequency, also it's harder to do penetration. So if you want to go deep in the body, you need a low frequency. It's like if you see those whales, they communicate in the sea, they use those very low sound. And the bats, and if they want to detect very things near them, obstacles and everything, they will use ultrasound. So it's the same, and the physics is applied in many different ways. But in ultrasound, basically, just know that the lower the frequency means you can go very deep, and the higher the frequency, you can go very high definition, but only superficial. So when you have probes that are 18 or plus megahertz, that means you will see only 1 or 2 centimeter deep in the body. So you can imagine that is not giving you much if you want to look at the heart or the abdomen. This will not be useful. Okay, but there's many types, and usually different brands, they have different names, and it's very confusing. If you want to remember 3 types, convex, linear, and echo probe, that usually is what the ultrasound comes with. It's the basic package, let's say. Now, where does ultrasound fits in the COVID-19 picture? Actually, it fits in many places. If you see, this is, we call it the patient pathway. So basically, if you have a coronavirus, if you get the coronavirus, we need to make sure you have it. If you're having cough and everything, there will be a diagnosis. So this only can be done by molecular lab tests. So they will do some tests, they will send it to the lab, and they can confirm only if there's the virus in your system, yeah? Once this is done, the doctor will need to do what is called the prognosis, which means how bad is it? It just means how bad is it? So to do that, they can use so many different things. They can use blood test again to see if there's a lot of virus in the blood or a little bit. They can use the CT, the X-ray, many things, or ultrasound. Ultrasound is already used to decide if the patient is advanced or if it's just the beginning, etc. I will explain you a bit more. Then comes the therapy, means the treatment of the patient, how to treat him, and it's followed up by exactly the same things, blood tests and lab tests, CT, X-ray, etc. And again, ultrasound will be useful. And then you need to follow up because the patient maybe is getting better, but you need to keep a close eye because usually it's the patient at risk, you know, with elderly people or people who have a very badly immune system. So you need to keep a very good eye on them. And what do you use? Again, you use the whole thing, CT, etc. And ultrasound is again useful in this part. So yes, ultrasound is very much needed because not only it can detect pneumonia. So pneumonia means infection of the lungs, which basically is the result of this COVID disease. So if there's infection of the lungs, the ultrasound can detect it. And it's also been compared with the CT because CT is a reference, okay, to a very nice image to detect very nice things. And they discovered that ultrasound and CT, they give the same results. So this means already is very good, yeah? So they can use ultrasound or CT, it will be the same. But one thing that is very good with ultrasound that CT cannot provide, it's how easy it is to use, yeah? Because I told you it's everywhere, it's a plug and play, it's very easy to move it to the patient. This is very important because when a patient is in ICU, because of COVID-19, it will be in a very bad shape. It will be with a ventilator. It will be with, you know, maybe it will be under anesthesia or anything. So it's a very high level of, you know, the patient will be in a very critical situation. And it's usually better if you can bring an ultrasound to his bed instead of having to move the patient completely with doctors, with the ventilator, with everything into the CT room. And usually the CT room can be far. It can be, you have to take the elevator. You know, all those things can be very bad when it's a critical patient. Sometimes the CT is right there, so it's very convenient and it's nice, but not all the hospitals are, you know, designed with coronavirus in mind. So this might not be available everywhere. So this is the first point. The second is that it's easy to clean. So when you want to clean an ultrasound, you can protect it easily, you can clean it easily. To clean a CT, that's another level. You need to clean the whole room, you need to clean everything, it takes time. So this is something very, very hard if you compare it to an ultrasound. And the third thing is you have much more ultrasound than CT, as I said. So you can have more patients. And some ultrasound, they have been designed to be used in sterile environments. Yeah, so if you think about, if you see on the top right of that slide, This is an ultrasound, for example, that's ultrasound system that has no cable for the transducer. That means the probe will be completely sterile. They will be sterilized. They will be protected, and the system is outside of the sterile field. That means the surgeon will not touch it, or whoever is using it will not touch it, and there's no cross-contamination, etc. So there's things designed already to be able to handle such a situation. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the scanning, how they use the ultrasound, it's actually very easy. They will just do with any ultrasound system, because any ultrasound system can do. Almost any ultrasound is good for detection on the lungs. They will have, of course, that's more for the doctors and everything, but maybe it will be interesting for you to learn. They will scan the lungs with different positions. So of course, on both sides, they will check right lung and left lung. And there's some very specific findings that they will look for very specific things. If they see those things, for sure, it's coronavirus, it's COVID-19. Yeah. I'm not even so good with those medical things here, but I know that's exactly the list of things coming from not Siemens, coming from publication. This is from the Radiology Society of North America. Okay, so those are the things that all the doctors worldwide, they are trained now to detect. So they will use basic ultrasound, portable or a big one or whatever. They will scan in a few positions on the lungs, and they will look for specific lesions. Yeah. And the good thing is the lesions, usually they're appearing very close to the surface. That's where ultrasound is the best, because the resolution will be higher. Remember what I said, when you go deep, you don't have high resolution. So if you have a lesion in the lungs for COVID-19, you will see them very, very well. It's very easy to see. So we did from our sites some very, very simple, how can I say, like we did a document that shows in a very simple way what it will look like if the patient is normal, if the patient is just at the beginning of the disease, if it's getting a bit worse, or if it's very bad. That's my way to explain in a very simple way. But basically those images are images of the lungs, and they will look very different. Okay, the first one, it doesn't look like anything special, but if you recognize a certain type of lines like this, the doctors will know that there's nothing to worry about. Yeah, normal lung. If they start to see some specific lines, like vertical lines, that's usually a bad sign, because it means that actually the ultrasound can go inside the lung. And if we see the lung is basically, it's funny, because when you talk about ultrasound in the lungs, technically the lungs, you cannot see them because it's air. And with ultrasound, you cannot see the air, right? You have to put, for example, the gel on the transducers, because you don't want to have any air between the probe and the patient's skin. You want to avoid any kind of air, because it's giving you artifacts and bad images and everything. And here, the funny thing is that it's the opposite. Is we use this because if we don't see anything, that means it's okay. But if we start seeing something, that means the lungs, basically, they're full of water, or they're getting very, very, you know, they how we call this? They become very stiff, very hard. And if they become stiff and hard, suddenly they appear. So if you look in the severe pneumonia, you see something that is looking like it's almost looking like a liver. It's looking very stiff. And that typically, it shows the doctor that it's a very advanced stage. So the patient's lungs are completely non-functional. They're completely, you know, like when you have this completely congested chest, they will have this, they will see it with the image. And if the patient has nothing, impossible to see, because the lungs is full of air, so you don't see anything. That's the funny way that ultrasound is using the artifact to detect if something is there or not. So this is the full picture. So this is definitely not for us, it's for like doctors, etc. It's for doctors who want to learn what will look like, what the ultrasound will look like if the patient is healthy, or if he has a beginning of the infection, moderate, severe, or if it's recovering. because most of the patient, they will recover. So we need to detect that it's recovering. So what to look for? So this is a very big poster that has been created to make those images understandable for everyone. So all the nurses or the sonographers or the doctors, they can see this and learn from it. Now, all the ultrasound, this is just a recap slides, just a take-home message, right? So this is a lot of information, I know, but if you just need to remember a few things, just remember that ultrasound is designed to be mobile, right? It's like always coming with wheels, or it's like portable. It's designed to be moved around to the bedside of the patients. Yeah. So this is what makes it so nice during those times when there's ICU, emergency, etc. To be able to move it fast. It's very good. Critical care means you need to check that the heart of the patient is good. You need to check the other organs. You need to check the kidney, and with ultrasound you can do all this. So you have a one ultrasound. You can do everything, including the lungs and all those things. So it's very nice to have all in one and available anytime. And the last thing is that it's easy to clean. Yeah, and that is the next slide. It's the part where I'm going to talk about cleaning, disinfection, and how to make sure there's no contamination. Because believe me or not, the biggest question now that is asked in the world about ultrasound is not how to detect the disease, how to scan, it's how to clean the system. This is the most important topic in everybody's mind, because ultrasound is used so much. It's how I'm going to clean it, how I'm going to clean the transducer, how I'm going to clean the machine itself, because this is so important. Because maybe you're going to scan 10 patients per hour. So if you don't clean it properly, you're going to maybe spread more, etc. So you have to avoid this at all costs. So of course, there's a list of disinfection products, disinfectants that can be used for coronavirus. And this is not coming from Siemens again. Siemens, we haven't done any tests on those products because it's not, we're not a reference for those. We don't produce those products. So there's an agency, which is the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency in USA, who is testing those products basically, and they have a daily updated lists of those products. And what we do in Siemens is we just check which products are okay to use on our machine, and we list the one only that can be used for coronavirus. Okay, so there's a document that I will tell you where to find it. It's showing you very clearly this product will not harm the machine, because also you have to be careful, because you can clean all the machine with alcohol, but if you damage the machine, then it's a different story. Because if you want to make the machine clean, but at the end it doesn't work, it's not gonna happen, right? So we have to make sure that those are approved disinfectants from our side and also from the EPA side, which means it will be cleaning very efficiently for the COVID. Yeah. So there's a link. You will find it in the document in the PDF that you might have downloaded already. You will be able to go there and you can see the list. So if you have any worries about what to use, if you want to check if what you already have in stock, you can use it for it. Go ahead. That's the best place where to find the information. Yeah. So cleaning is important, but you can also protect the transducers from the start. So you have, this is the very classic thing, is not again something coming from Siemens. It's coming for all the companies. It's a third party that you can buy. It's usually covering the transducers and the cable. It's used 100% of the time. For example, if you're in the gynecology department, using a transvaginal transducer, it will be always protected. So it will always have like a protection on the probe to be very clean. And so those transducer cover, they will protect completely, and they can be removed, and they are sterile. Okay, so they are in a package that is completely sterile. So you just put the gel inside, put it on the transducer, single use, trash it, and that's it. So it's much easier than to clean the whole thing. you can change it very quick. Yeah. So this is one thing that is used very frequently nowadays as well. And the last thing that you can do as well is to protect the system itself. So for example, there's system covers. So this is on our portable, for example, we have, but on all the other systems as well, a silicone cover. It's protecting the keyboard, it's protecting all the buttons. So basically, you can clean this instead of cleaning the whole keyboard under. It will protect nicely. But as you can see, it doesn't protect the whole thing. It doesn't protect the screen. It doesn't protect the handles, the sides, etc. So some people even go further and they use like a bag that is covering the whole system. And usually I've seen this most of the time, it was in surgery rooms. So there is, when need be to use an ultrasound in the surgery room, sometimes they cover it with those surgical drapes. So the surgical, complete surgical transparent drape covers completely the system. So you can still see the screen, you can operate the buttons a bit. And this is usually the safest way they have found to protect the system. The only thing you have to be careful of course, is not to block the ventilation of the system. It's like a PC, it will overheat if you block the air. Yeah, so this is it. For protection of the system, it's very simple. You just need to know which product to use, where to find the information, and pretty much that's it. Yeah. So for the next parts, how we can support, like at Siemens, how we can support in those time and support you specifically, because I said we want to support the whole healthcare system. But if I talk about pure, biomedical topic, yeah, if I talk about biomedical department, how to make sure the ultrasound system is performing well, because people are under a lot of stress. The equipment is under a lot of stress as well. Day and night, it's used much more than before, moved much more than before, cleaned much more than before. So this is all going into, sometimes it can make some problem happen. So there's not enough equipment for all the patients, especially in some countries. I'm French, so we had this big issue that there's too many patients, not enough room, not enough bed, ventilator, ultrasound, etc. So there's no time for breakdown, but there's no time for downtime, bad performance, etc. This is the worst time. It cannot happen. And sadly, this is on our hands, biomedical engineers. We have to make sure that the system is always performing at the best level, that everything is working well, and this is very stressful. And this we can help because we have tools to do it remotely. I cannot go on site anymore. For example, I cannot visit. I cannot go to Saudi. I cannot take a plane. I cannot visit a customer who needs to repair or to have some advanced questions. I cannot do this. So how can I do? Of course, I have WhatsApp. I have my phone, but I have more. I have tools to remotely log in the system. Of course, it's very safe and it's under the approval of the end user on the side of the machine. But I can completely access the system. I can do some service tasks. I can test the probe crystals, this kind of thing. So I can be sure that there's no problem with the system. If there's a problem, if it's a software problem, I can fix it. I can install some patch software. I can troubleshoot. I can do a lot of things remotely, and I can even not only do some service, but I can do education. Meaning, if some doctors is very new, has never seen the system before, I can train him which button to press, how to activate the good mode. I was showing you the 2D color, Doppler, all those things I can do remotely. I can guide him through the steps, and I can make sure the system is ready and the doctor is ready to use it. So this is very important, because if you don't have those extra tools, then you're alone, right? You have no help. You cannot rely on much things except on yourself. And sometimes you need the guy with the CD, the software on the CD, because you don't have it. So if I can log in on the system and do the updates from my home, this can be life-saving. It can be in 1 hour the system is up and running like it's in perfect condition. So this is very important. At least for me, this is very important. And for the education parts as well, because we know that sometimes you just need to learn a few things on the machine, or you don't remember how to activate something, or whatever. We have our platform, which all my colleagues you will hear about in CT or in X-ray, they will talk about this as well. It's called Personal Education Program. It's just you can go ahead, I put the link as well. You can type a PEP Connect on Google. It's a free website to access. Yeah, we don't block it. It's free to access for all the products we have in the company, and you can learn how to use it. So this also is very useful, because any new joiner, if you want to do a few things on an ultrasound, then you will have small videos and things to show you how to do, and this can be very helpful. How to educate a new colleague on something, that would be the best way to do it. Yeah, and again, since I cannot go myself on site, I cannot go and see the doctor, show him around, show him how to use the system. That's my only way to do it. So I'm very happy I have those things to help me as well. And with the resources now, I was saying that it's always good to know where to find information. And from our side, I had people asking me this as well. And does Siemens have a website for COVID-19 information? This is not related to our product necessarily. It can be information where to find, this word map with the number of cases, number of tests, number of death, and all this. It will be on our website, because it's all the links that can be useful in this situation, where to find the real information, not the one sometimes you cannot trust so much. If there's a doubt, it will not be there. So this website is basically putting all the things together, some speeches from doctors, even they're showing machines from different brands. We don't care. If they're useful for the medical community to help more patients or to save more patients, then that's it. It's on the site, no issue. Yeah. So there is this site again. You will have the link. You can go visit. It's very nicely done. And again, this PEP Connect is the exact same slide. I just changed the picture on the bottom. It's small videos. It's like a small YouTube showing a few things about COVID-19 topics. Yeah. So again, this is not related to Siemens. It's related to COVID-19. So you will learn how this doctor in Austria is doing this procedure. You will learn about China. You will see Johns Hopkins, for example, it's in Baltimore in US. It's a very huge medical center. And they're the one who created this very nice website where you can see the map of all the cases, all the countries, the curves, and all this. All the media, all the newspaper, they use the curves from that website, from that Johns Hopkins center. So there's a link how to go there, how to do your thing. It's just about all the things related to COVID-19. So if you want to have a look again, you will find a lot of I'm going every day. I'm finding a lot of new things and nice information. And for ultrasound, of course, we have a dedicated page, because if you want to know how to clean the system, this is where you will find it. The list of approved disinfectants, benefits of lung ultrasound. So what I've done now is making it very fast and simple. But if you really want to go in depth and see the clinical or the technical behind, then there's more content. Yeah, because today I have only, and now I'm a bit reaching the end, 45 minutes. But there's much more content you can go through. So you have very useful links. Clinical white paper. This is also things that is not. It's done by other doctors. They're not Siemens employees. They're developing this flyer I was showing you about how to see if the patient is in good or in bad shape. Yeah, and of course you will see our products, but this is not very relevant. And of course, this is my thank you slide, because it's the end. I just took a social media post about Siemens, but this is just echoing my thank you with all my colleagues, because we know that you guys and everybody that is involved in healthcare is doing so much. We are having a lot of stress, so I just wanted to make sure you know that we're all thankful for what you do. Yeah. So thank you for attending this call. And now is the time, if you have any question, I will be looking at them and I will be hopefully having an answer for you.
Thank you, Engineer Nicholas. Thank you for this nice presentation, very informative. I already sent you some questions. If you can see the tab of questions, you can just read the questions and
yes.
Yeah, please.
Okay, I will take from the top.
Okay.
So, does the ultrasound come with different transducers so we can change them based on the case that want to take the image for? So yes, so most of the ultrasound machines, they have different transducer connected. Basically, it just depends what has been purchased by the hospital. Sometimes they purchase a machine with only one probe, but this is not frequent. Usually, I would say there's two, three transducers, and most of the time you have different types, so you can do different cases. You can do abdominal, you can do vascular, you can do lungs. And the good thing with lungs, it's that you can do with multiple transducers. You can do with all the transducers, basically, and that's what it's why ultrasound is very good, is that it's so flexible for the lungs. You can use it with all the different transducers. Yeah. Second question, it's a very interesting one. Does it mean that ultrasound can do the CT job? So there is no competition between CT and ultrasound, of course. I would say that answer, to be simple, is yes. But sometimes the CT, of course, the resolution will be better, but it's not convenient. So it's always a choice that the doctor has to make, is it safe to move the patient to the CT? Because sometimes those patients, they are in really bad shape. If it's a very old person that is with ventilation and everything, sometimes it's a very big trouble to move him or her. So ultrasound might be a priority. Of course, the CT image will be nicer and everything, but you can see the things with ultrasound very well. So why not? Why not use the ultrasound? If you have only one CT available, you cannot do as many patients as fast as you will do on ultrasound. So yeah, there's always a choice that is made by the doctor between the CT and the ultrasound, but I'm sure both of them, they're used as much as possible. They're used 100%. So this is really based on availability and convenience, and if it's possible at all. Yeah. Another question. Please elaborate on the new designs of probes for COVID-19 patients. So I don't think today there was any new probes designed for COVID-19. What is used is the conventional transducers. It takes a lot of time to design a transducer. It has to be tested. It has to be approved by the FDA. All this. It's basically, if we create a transducer today, it will be out next year. This is not possible. But luckily, all the existing transducer that are already in the hospital, already on the machine, they can do the job very well. So this is the good point, is that there was no need to update the machine, no need to buy new things, etc. It's already most likely ready to do the job. So it's very easy and convenient to use the normal transducer. I have again a transducer question. Which type of transducer? So let me I'll put my presentation out and I will show the transducer page. Okay. Which type of transducer? So basically, any of those three transducer you will see here, and again, it's just a type, it's not with any kind of frequency or etc. You can do lungs with all three. You can do lungs with convex, and believe me, I would say 95, sorry, I need to come back. 95% of the ultrasounds in the hospital, they will have this transducer. It's the basic. It's like a car without an engine. There's always this transducer on the machine. unless it's for specialty machine, like only for pediatric MSK or something, it will always be there. So you can use this transducer. And all the image I showed in my presentation for the lungs, they were made with this type of convex. But you can also use the linear, and you can also use the cardiac, the echo transducer. So you can have many options. And this is also very good because that means there's higher chance you have the good transducer because they're all good. Yeah. I have a disinfection question now. Some of these disinfectants can be abrasive to the transducer. So this is very true. There's a list in normal time. All the machines in the market, Siemens, other brands, they all have a list of approved disinfectants. Because what happens if and you know this very well, some people, they clean the transducer with alcohol wipes or things like this. And since the transducer, it's a membrane, it's a very soft membrane on the tip of the transducer. And that means that it will make it very dry and it will crack. Sometimes it will make bubbles, it will even fall. So if you use the wrong product, many times I'm talking, it's not going to happen like in one time, it's going to happen after 1 year, 2 years. But if you use those bad products, it's like if you clean the phone, the screen of your phone with like very strong product, maybe it will make it very bad. So you have to know which product to use, and in those products to use, we did the comparison with the one that are approved by this US website to be used against the COVID-19. So it's a small list, but with this one, you will be sure that you don't make any trouble for the transducer, and you will be sure that it's killing COVID-19 very well. So there's this list of cleaners that you will find, of disinfectants you will find in the website. Next question, there is a lot of questions actually, it's very nice. What is the differences between using CT and ultrasound in detection, and which one is the most helpful? So this is a bit the same as before. I would say that it's depending on the patient, depending on the availability and all this. They will basically do the same thing. CT will help a bit more, maybe for difficult cases to see a bit better, but it will be harder to use, harder to clean, not available, maybe hard to move the patient. So at the end, the doctors will choose which one is the best for that patient, but they can both do very well. Yes, so again, a CT versus ultrasound, but talking about radiation dose. So the US, the ultrasound is free of such radiation, so this is right. So the advantage of ultrasound is mainly that there is no radiation. And of course, some patients, they're worried about radiation. I think if they have COVID-19, that's not the best, that's not the worst of their worries, I'm sure. But still, many people, they don't want to have too much radiation. There's people also that cannot go in a CT for other reasons. So there's many different topics. But you're right, CT, there's radiation, X-ray, there's radiation. It's not very high, but it's always more than no radiation at all. So it's good to have a system available without radiation. What is the distance between the wireless probe and the machine? So the machine can be kept behind the glass and get inside with COVID-19 patients. So this is a very specific question about this wireless probe machine. It's a probe. Usually we can go 3 to 4 meters without no problem, but the screen is a bit small, so you can't go too far because you won't see anything. That's one of the thing. The second is that you can, and this is very true, that you can be in, you know, this isolation area, and you can leave the machine outside. If there's a glass, it will work. So the probe will work even if the machine stays. So this is perfect. You don't need to clean the machine because it was not even there. It was completely out of the room. There was no contact with the doctor, because the probe it's a remote for the system. You can control the whole system with the probe. So I would say 3 to 4 meters is perfect. Usually that's enough. You can do a bit more, but you have to make sure that it's the connection is still good. So some places they use this. Kuwait, they use this a lot. I think in Saudi, a few places they have this setup, isolation room with a glass, and they can leave the machine outside and protect the transducer with a small plastic bag, which is a sterile bag designed for this, of course. And so they don't have to do too much time on the sterilization. It's very nice. Another question. How can the crystals can be fixed for the transducer once defective? So there's no choice. It has to be fixed by either changing the probe completely, which is usually what happens, or there's some companies, third-party companies that can fix it, like they do servicing for the probes. It's the same for all the companies. So the thing is, what we can do from our sides is that we can test the probes, because what happens most of the time, in my experience, I have a doctor or a biomedical engineer calling me and they say the image is bad. And there's so many reasons why it can be bad. It can be the doctor, right? It can be the doctor is not using it properly with the wrong program. This is perfectly normal. No shame in this. It can be that the crystal is damaged, or it can be also that the software on the machine has a problem. You never know. And if I can test the crystal, I can be sure it's either the crystal or it's not the crystal. I can make a very small test that will tell me if the probe is involved in this bad image quality or not. But usually, and also this is in my experience, what happens is if the probe falls on the ground, sometimes it can break the crystal, or if the machine, you know, sometimes the cable, they're lying on the floor, and the machine, they roll over with the wheel, they will roll over the cable, and this can cut some of the fibers in the cable. So this is the two reasons. If the probe falls, usually if there's 1 or 2 crystal broken, it's okay. The image will not be too bad. If the cable is cut, then there's gonna be a large area of the image is not working. It might be an issue as well. You can still hear me?
Yes, Nicholas, please. Yes.
Okay, sorry, because it changed the screen.
Yeah, we have just 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm reaching the end of the questions. So we see some ultrasound transducer for smartphones, how useful and reliable they are, and they medical grade with real medical applications. So I cannot speak for the other brands of their certifications and everything, because I don't know if they're certified and medical grade and all this. I haven't investigated myself. I know there's a lot of those out there, and they're actually quite good. The thing is that usually what I know also is that in an ambulance, for example, this is very nice because you want to do triage, you want to see if there's something. It's not about being sterile, it's not about being clean, it's about saving the life of the patient. But if you are in the ICU or if you are in the operating room, a phone usually is the dirtiest thing you can find in your whole life. It's like, it's always hot, it's always in contact with your hands, with you know, it's very dirty. So some people say that it's very good new technologies, but in some situation like ICU, etc., it's very dirty, which is true. So you would have to think about cleaning also the phones and all this. And for the image quality, I think it's also capable. It's some kind of transducer that are very good for convex as well. Linear is the same that are used for lens, so no problem. I would say that it's not nothing that you can't use for COVID-19. I'm sure it's used already in some places, but Siemens, we don't have such phone style thing, so I am not so much familiar with it. Next one, 3 left, 3.5 megahertz and 7 megahertz linear and convex transducer have differences in terms of imaging an infected COVID-19 lungs. So there will be some tiny differences, yes, but not so big. You will see almost the same things, maybe a bit more penetration, maybe a bit more resolution with one or the other, but it's not going to be completely different. Remember that here we're not doing some very advanced, because usually the frequency and all this is very important, because the doctors, they want to see that for the baby, the fetus, that there's no problem in the fetus. They want to see very high resolution, very beautiful image. Or they're looking at the liver, they want to see exactly if this is a cancer or if this is a benign lesion. Here we're not talking about this precision, right? It's not about precision. Here we just want to see if the lung is good or if it's affected by the disease. And this basically doesn't require any high definition. It can be done by any machine, laptop, the big one, the expensive, the cheap one, it can be done by anyone. So at the end of the day, those are not having so much impact on the result. Of course, small differences, but not so much, yeah? We're really talking about easy images to do on the lungs. It's requiring no advanced technology. Second question to last, what is the difference between ultrasound for checkup or OB-GYN and echo ultrasound? Are they the same technology, just using different probe, or is there a big difference? So this is a very good question as well. You will find that sometimes there's a machine that is very good, designed only for cardiology or only for OB-GYN, but I would say that overall, it's just about the probe. Yeah, because when you talk about machine is only for cardiac, that means it has all those advanced software or all those advanced probe. Again, we're not talking about those advanced things. We're talking about the very basics, how to do just the 2D image. Any machine can do. Since 1970, all the machine can do what is needed for the lungs imaging. So this is the basic of ultrasound. That's why all the machine, they're good. That's the beauty of it. And the last question, if I change the color from red to blue, after that, how I will know about the blood go towards or away? I hope my question is clear, and it is. So basically, there's an indication on the side of the screen that is showing you the up and the down. So it's like a scale, and you can flip it, and you will see the result. So basically, if the blue is up, that means it's going towards. If the red is up, that means it's the red is going towards you. So you can very easily identify, and usually that is not an issue, because the doctor, they have their preference. They set it once for all, and that's it. They know exactly what they see because the machine is always set up in the same way. Okay. So this is the last question. Yeah, nothing came in between. So I hope I was clear. I hope I was clear and easy understanding from your side.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it is very clear, actually, Engineer Nicholas. Thank you very much. Actually, with name of Saudi Scientific Society for Biomedical Engineering, we would like to thank you, and also to thank Siemens Healthineers in Saudi Arabia for the initiative to participate with our webinars during this month. Thank you again for all attendees, and thank you for your pay attentions and interact with many of questions. I believe there is many questions. We didn't actually send it to Engineer Nicholas because of the time, but again, we will. I hope there is many similar question or repeated questions, so that we cover most of the concerns right now. Thank you again, and wish you a good day.
Thank you very much. Thank you from my side. It was very nice to be with you guys.
Thank you, Engineer Nicholas. Thank you. So we will close the webinar now. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.